The knock came at 11:47 p.m. Not a polite knock. Not the hesitant tap of a neighbor asking for sugar. This was the kind of knock that made the thin walls of the crumbling apartment building shudder. The kind that announced its presence like a warning before an earthquake. Maya Johnson was halfway through washing the dinner dishes. 2 plates, 2 forks, remnants of the boxed macaroni and cheese that had been on sale at the corner store when she heard it. Her hands froze in the soapy water, her heart suddenly pounding against her ribs. No one knocked on her door at this hour. No one knocked on her door at any hour. She glanced toward the hallway where her daughter's room sat in darkness. Destiny was 7 years old, and she slept like the dead, a blessing in a building where the walls were thin enough to hear neighbors fighting 3 floors down. The knock came again, harder this time. Maya dried her hands on a threadbare towel and moved toward the door, her bare feet silent on the worn carpet. The peephole had been broken since before she moved in, leaving her with a choice: open the door blind or ignore whoever was on the other side. But something told her that ignoring this knock was not an option. She could hear voices now, low, urgent, speaking in tones that suggested authority and barely contained tension. Multiple voices, too many to count through the cheap wood that separated her from whatever was waiting outside. Maya took a breath, and then she opened the door. What she saw made her blood freeze. If you are watching this and you are not subscribed yet, you need to stop everything right now and hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications, because what Maya sees on the other side of that door is going to change her life forever, and you are going to want to witness every second of what happens next. Subscribe now. 20 men stood in the hallway. Not ordinary men. These were men who looked like they had been carved from shadow and violence. Men whose suits were soaked from the storm raging outside, whose faces held the kind of cold focus that came from years of doing things that most people only saw in nightmares. They were armed. Maya could see it in the way they held themselves, in the slight bulges beneath their wet jackets, in the way their eyes scanned her apartment over her shoulder with professional assessment. But they were not the one who spoke. The woman at their center was. She was perhaps 40 years old, or perhaps ageless in the way that certain people become when they have seen too much and survived it all. Her hair was dark, slicked back from a face that was beautiful in the way that storms are beautiful, dangerous, commanding, impossible to look away from. Her suit was as soaked as her men's, but she wore it like armor. And her eyes were the color of winter ice, and they held Maya's gaze with the kind of authority that made grown men weep. We need shelter. 3 words, spoken quietly, without threat, but the threat was there anyway, lurking beneath the surface like a shark in dark water. Maya's mouth went dry. I do not understand. Who are you? That is not important right now. The woman glanced over her shoulder, and something in her expression flickered, there and gone, too quick to identify. What is important is that we cannot stay on the streets tonight. There are people looking for us. People who will kill anyone they find us with. Then you should not be here. We have nowhere else to go. The woman stepped forward, and Maya instinctively stepped back, allowing the breach of her threshold. Every safe house in this district has been compromised. Every contact has gone dark. Your building is the only one left standing between us and the people hunting us. Maya heard what the woman was not saying. If they did not find shelter here, they would find it by force. I have a daughter. The words came out before Maya could stop them. She is 7 years old. She is sleeping in the next room. Please, whatever you are running from, please do not bring it into her life. Something shifted in the woman's eyes. For just a moment, just a heartbeat, the ice melted into something else. Something almost human. But what that something was, Maya could not tell. And before she could ask, the woman made a decision that would determine both their fates. What did the mafia boss see in Maya's eyes that made her pause? What is she running from? And why? Why did she choose this crumbling apartment above all other options? Drop a comment right now and tell me your theories. Subscribe if you have not already, because the answers are coming and they are going to shock you. Stay with me. The woman turned to her men. Secure the perimeter. 2 men at every exit. Kill the lights in the stairwell. No one comes up without our knowledge. She paused, and Victor, a massive man with a scar running from his forehead to his jaw, stepped forward. Yes, boss. If anyone harms this woman or her child, I will personally remove their spine through their throat. Victor nodded as if this were a perfectly reasonable instruction, and the men dispersed with silent efficiency. Within moments, Maya's cramped apartment was filled with strangers who seemed to know exactly how to move through tight spaces, how to position themselves at windows, how to transform a two-bedroom apartment into a tactical position. The woman remained standing in Maya's living room, surveying the space with an expression Maya could not read. "You live here alone, with your daughter." It was not a question. Yes. The father? Gone. 3 years ago. He did not. Maya stopped, wondering why she was sharing this information with an armed stranger. He did not want the responsibility. No one ever does. The woman's voice was soft, almost to herself, until they realize what they have lost. She moved to the window, peering through the gap in the curtains at the street below. Rain hammered against the glass, and lightning illuminated the sky in brief, violent flashes. "What is your name?" "Maya. Maya Johnson." "Maya." The woman tested the name like she was tasting wine. "My name is not important, but my men call me the Queen. You may call me whatever you wish. How about you tell me what is happening? Why you are here? Why 20 armed men just walked into my apartment like it is a military base?" The Queen turned from the window, and her eyes held something that made Maya's blood run cold. "Because by this time tomorrow, at least half of us will probably be dead." She said it calmly, matter-of-factly, the way someone might mention that it was going to rain. "And if you are very, very lucky, Maya Johnson, you and your daughter might not be among them." Before Maya could respond, a sound cut through the night that made every man in the apartment reach for their weapons. Screaming. From somewhere below. Getting closer. The Queen's expression did not change. "They found us faster than I expected. And that is where I am going to pause part 1. Subscribe right now if you want to know what happens next. Hit that button immediately, because the people hunting the Queen have arrived, and Maya is about to discover that the worst night of her life is just beginning. Like this video if your heart is pounding right now. Comment below and tell me, do you think Maya and her daughter will survive the night? Do you trust the Queen? What is she really running from? Stay with me. Part 2 is where the truth starts to come out. The screaming stopped as suddenly as it had started. Maya stood frozen in the center of her living room, watching the Queen's men take positions at windows and doorways with the choreographed precision of a military unit. Their weapons were out now, no pretense, no hiding, and the reality of her situation hit her like a physical blow. There were killers in her home, professional killers, and something even worse was coming up the stairs. How many entrances? The Queen's voice was calm, clinical. 3. Front stairwell, back fire escape, roof access. Victor checked his weapon. "We have men at all of them. Pull them back. Create a choke point on this floor. Let them come to us." "And the other residents?" The Queen was silent for a moment. "How many apartments on this floor?" 6. It was Maya who answered, her voice barely steady. "But most of them are empty. The building is scheduled for demolition next month. The only people left are Mrs. Chun in 4B. She is 83. She refused to leave. And the Rodriguez family in 4F. They have nowhere else to go." The Queen processed this information with the same cold efficiency she applied to everything else. "Victor, get the old woman and the family. Bring them here." Victor looked confused. "Boss, if our enemies breach this floor, they will kill everyone they find. Civilians are liabilities in other apartments. Here, they are under our protection." She said it as if it were simple logic, as if protecting innocent people was just another tactical decision. But Maya saw something else in her eyes, something that did not fit with everything she thought she knew about criminals and monsters. Subscribe now if you want to understand who the Queen really is, because what Maya is about to witness will challenge everything she believes about good and evil. Hit that subscribe button. Within minutes, Mrs. Chun was sitting on Maya's worn couch, wrapped in a blanket, looking more curious than frightened. The Rodriguez family, Maria, her husband Carlos, and their 3 children, huddled in the corner, the parents clearly terrified, the children treating the whole thing like an exciting adventure. And Destiny. Maya's heart clenched as her daughter emerged from her bedroom, rubbing sleep from her eyes. "Mama, why are there people in our house?" Before Maya could answer, the Queen crouched down to Destiny's level. The movement was fluid, natural, not the awkward condescension that adults often show to children, but a genuine meeting of equals. "Hello, my name is Valentina. What is yours?" "Destiny." "That is a beautiful name." The queen, Valentina, smiled, and the transformation was startling. The ice in her eyes melted into something warm and genuine. We are having a sleepover at your mama's house. Is that okay with you? Destiny looked at Maya, who managed a nod. Okay. Can I have a snack? Sleepovers always have snacks. Valentina laughed, a real laugh, surprised and delighted. I think that can be arranged. She stood and looked at Victor. There is food in this kitchen? Not much, boss. Some crackers, peanut butter, milk. Then crackers and peanut butter it is. Valentina looked at Maya. May I? Maya was too stunned to object. She watched as the most dangerous woman she had ever met walked into her cramped kitchen and began making peanut butter crackers for her daughter. The sight was so surreal that Maya found herself wondering if she was dreaming. But the sounds from outside, the rain, the distant thunder, the occasional shout from the men securing the building, reminded her that this was very, very real. You are good with children. Valentina did not look up from her task. I had one. Once. The words hung in the air like smoke. What happened? That is a story for another time. Valentina finished the crackers and arranged them on a plate with more care than seemed necessary. Or perhaps no time at all. Drop a comment right now if you want to know what happened to Valentina's child. That secret is going to change everything you think you know about her. Subscribe and stay with me. The attack came at 2:17 a.m. Maya heard it before she saw it. The crash of breaking glass from somewhere below, followed by the sharp crack of gunfire. The children screamed. Mrs. Chin closed her eyes and began praying in Cantonese. Maria Rodriguez clutched her children close while Carlos stood helplessly, wanting to protect his family, but having no idea how. And Valentina. Valentina moved like water flowing around obstacles. Victor, north stairwell. Keep them contained. Jean, take Kowalski and Chun and secure the fire escape. Anyone comes through, you put them down. She turned to Maya. Where is the bathroom? What? The bathroom. Now. Maya pointed, and Valentina grabbed her arm, pulling her toward the small room at the end of the hall. Destiny tried to follow, but Victor scooped her up with surprising gentleness. Stay with me, little one. Your mama will be right back. In the bathroom, Valentina locked the door and turned on the faucet. What are you doing? The running water masks our voices. The walls here are thick enough that they cannot monitor us easily. Valentina met her eyes. I need to tell you something, Maya. Something that may determine whether you live through this night. What? The men hunting me. They are not just criminals. They are my own people. My own organization. Valentina's voice was tight, with barely contained emotion. They are here because I made a decision 3 weeks ago that they consider unforgivable. What decision? Valentina was silent for a moment. I refused to kill a child. The words landed like stones in still water. I do not understand. There was a witness. A 12-year-old girl who saw something she should not have seen. My second in command, a man named Kozlov, ordered her eliminated. Standard protocol. No witnesses, no problems. And you refused. I did more than refuse. Valentina's eyes burned with something that might have been rage or grief or both. I sent her and her family into hiding. I used my own resources to protect them. And when Kozlov discovered what I had done, he turned the organization against you. Half the organization. The other half remains loyal to me. But Kozlov controls the routes, the safe houses, the infrastructure. He has been hunting us for 3 weeks, picking off my people one by one. Maya stared at this woman, this queen of the underworld, and saw her for the first time. Not as a monster, not as a threat, but as a woman who had chosen mercy over survival, who had sacrificed everything to save a child she did not know, just like Maya would have done for Destiny. Why are you telling me this? Because, but before Valentina could answer, an explosion rocked the building. The lights went out, and in the darkness, Maya heard something that made her blood turn to ice. Her daughter screaming. That is where part 2 ends. Subscribe right now. Hit that button immediately. Because Destiny is in danger, and what happens in the next few minutes will determine whether she lives or dies. Like this video if your heart is racing. Comment and tell me. What do you think happened? Is Destiny safe? Will Maya trust Valentina to save her daughter? Part 3 is where everything comes together. Do not miss it. Maya burst out of the bathroom, Valentina right behind her. The apartment was chaos, smoke filling the air, men shouting orders, the acrid smell of gunpowder mixing with something else. Something burning. Destiny. Maya screamed her daughter's name, pushing past armed men who barely registered her presence. Destiny. Here. She is here. Victor's voice cut through the confusion. Maya found him in the corner of the living room, his massive body shielding a cluster of civilians. Mrs. Chun, the Rodriguez family. And there, clutching Victor's leg with both hands, her face streaked with tears, but very much alive. Destiny. Maya fell to her knees and pulled her daughter into her arms, sobbing with relief, not caring who saw or what it meant. Her baby was alive. Her baby was safe. Mama, the bad men are coming. Destiny's voice was surprisingly steady. The big man said he would protect us. Maya looked up at Victor, and the scarred giant nodded once. She is brave, this one. Did not cry once until the explosion. Before Maya could respond, Valentino was at her side. We need to move. The explosion was a breach. They are inside the building now. She looked at the civilians huddled together. All of you. There is a maintenance access in the back of this apartment. It leads to a passage that connects to the building next door. How do you know that? Maya asked. Because I have owned this building for 15 years. I bought it as a safe house when I first came to power. The passage was built specifically for situations like this. Maya stared at her. You own this building? I own 47 properties in this city. Most of my tenants have no idea who their landlord is. Valentina's voice was matter of fact. I keep the rents low because I know what it is like to struggle. That is also why I never demolished this building, despite what the official notices say. The revelation landed like a puzzle piece clicking into place. Subscribe now if you are starting to see who Valentina really is. Because the truth about this woman goes deeper than anything Maya imagined. Hit that subscribe button. Victor led the civilians toward the back of the apartment, where a panel in Maya's closet concealed a narrow passage. The children treated it like a game, following the secret tunnel with wide eyes and excited whispers, while the adults moved with the quiet desperation of people who understood exactly how much danger they were in. But Valentina did not follow. What are you doing? Maya stopped at the entrance to the passage. You have to come with us. I cannot. Valentina checked her weapon. Kozlov will not stop until he finds me. If I disappear into the tunnel, he will tear this building apart looking for me. He will find the passage. He will follow you. Then what? I am going to give him what he wants. Valentina's voice was calm. I am going to let him find me. That is suicide. That is strategy. Valentina smiled. A sad, weary smile that held the weight of years. Kozlov wants to kill me himself. If I surrender, if I give him the satisfaction of facing me directly, he will pull his men back. He will want it to be personal. And then what? And then my loyal people, the ones who have been waiting for my signal, will strike. They have been positioning for 3 weeks, waiting for the right moment. She touched Maya's face with unexpected gentleness. Kozlov thinks he has won, but I have been playing a longer game than he can imagine. Why? Maya's voice cracked. Why would you do this for us? For strangers? Valentina was quiet for a moment. When I was 8 years old, my mother and I were running from my father. He was a cruel man, a monster who beat us and terrorized us and made our lives a living hell. One night, we knocked on a stranger's door during a storm, begging for shelter. Maya felt the parallel click into place. What happened? The stranger turned us away. She was afraid of my father, afraid of getting involved, afraid of anything that might disrupt her comfortable life. Valentina's voice hardened. My father found us an hour later. He killed my mother in front of me. Maya felt tears streaming down her face. That is why I swore that if I ever had power, I would never turn away someone who needed shelter. No matter the cost, no matter the risk. Valentina stepped back. Now go. Victor will protect you until my people arrive. I cannot just leave you. You can. You must. Valentina's eyes met hers. Your daughter needs you, Maya. She needs you more than I need saving. Before Maya could argue, Victor gently pulled her into the passage. Come. The queen knows what she is doing. The last thing Maya saw before the panel closed was Valentina walking toward the door, toward the enemy, toward what should have been her death. And something in Maya's heart cracked. Drop a comment right now and tell me if you think Valentina is going to survive. Subscribe immediately because the final confrontation is coming. Like this video if your heart is breaking. The passage was dark and narrow, lit only by the flashlights Victor's men carried. Maya held Destiny close as they moved through the cramped space, the sounds of the battle above them growing distant with every step. They emerged in the basement of the neighboring building, a vacant commercial space that smelled of dust and forgotten dreams. Victor's men secured the exits while the civilians huddled together, exhausted and terrified. "What happens now?" Maya asked Victor. "We wait for the signal." "What signal?" But before he could answer, Maya's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Look outside." Maya moved to the grimy window and looked toward the building they had just escaped. What she saw made her gasp. Helicopters. 3 of them, hovering over the apartment building, their searchlights cutting through the storm. And on the ground, vehicles were arriving. Black SUVs with tinted windows, disgorging men in tactical gear who were clearly not on Kozlov's side. "The Queen's loyal forces," Victor said, appearing beside her. She signaled them when Kozlov entered the building. "They have been waiting for this moment for 3 weeks. She planned this. All of it. Not all of it." Victor's voice was heavy. "She did not plan on you. On your daughter. On finding civilians who needed protection in the middle of a war." He paused. "But she adapted. She always does." The sounds of combat intensified. Gunfire, explosions, the unmistakable chaos of a battle being fought at close quarters. Maya watched the building she had called home for 3 years, the building where she had raised her daughter alone, the building where everything had changed in a single night. And she prayed. For the first time in years, she prayed, not for herself, but for a woman she had known for only a few hours. A woman who had walked into her life like a storm and shown her that strength did not always look the way she expected. Subscribe now if you want to know if Valentina survives. Hit that subscribe button because the next few minutes will determine everything. Stay with me. The battle lasted 47 minutes. When it was over, the storm had finally broken. Dawn light filtered through the clouds, painting the ruined city block in shades of gold and pink that seemed almost obscene after the violence of the night. Victor received a call, listened for a moment, then closed his eyes in relief. "The Queen lives." Maya felt her knees buckle. Victor caught her before she could fall. She took a bullet during the confrontation. Kozlov got close enough to wound her before her people secured him. Victor's voice was quiet. "But she survived. She is being transported to a private medical facility now. And Kozlov, in custody. He will face justice within the organization." Victor's expression hardened. "The Queen has special plans for him." Maya did not ask what those plans were. She did not want to know. What she wanted was to see Valentina one more time. To thank her. To understand how a single night could change everything she thought she knew about power and mercy and strength. But she did not know if she would ever get that chance. 3 weeks passed. Life slowly returned to something resembling normal, or as normal as things could be when your apartment building had been half destroyed in a gang war. The city had provided temporary housing for the displaced residents. Mrs. Chun was living with her daughter for the first time in years. The Rodriguez family had been relocated to a better neighborhood. And Maya had received something she never expected. An envelope delivered by a courier who disappeared before she could ask questions. Inside was a check for enough money to change her life, enough to pay off her debts, fund Destiny's education, start over somewhere safe. There was no signature, no return address, but Maya knew who it was from. She also knew, somehow, that accepting the money would not make her feel like she owed anything. That was not how Valentina operated. The money was a gift, freely given, with no strings attached. The way shelter should be offered. The way mercy should be shown. Like this video right now if this story has touched you. Subscribe now because what happens next will stay with you forever. The knock came on a Tuesday afternoon. This time, Maya was not afraid. She opened the door to find a woman standing in the hallway, thinner than before, one arm in a sling, but very much alive. Valentina was wearing casual clothes for the first time since Maya had met her. Jeans, a simple blouse, her dark hair loose around her shoulders. She looked almost normal. Almost. "May I come in?" Maya stepped aside without speaking. Valentina entered the modest temporary apartment and looked around. At the second-hand furniture, the children's drawings on the refrigerator, the evidence of a life rebuilt from nothing. "You are using the money. Some of it. Destiny starts at a better school next month. And Maya paused. "I have been thinking about going back to college. Finishing my degree." "What did you study?" "Social work." Before Destiny was born, before everything fell apart. Maya shrugged. I always wanted to help people. I just got lost along the way. Valentina nodded slowly. I came to offer you something. A job. Doing what? My organization operates several legitimate businesses, rehabilitation centers, shelters, community programs. After what happened, after Kozlov's betrayal, I am restructuring, focusing on the parts of my empire that actually help people. She paused. I need someone to run the shelter programs. Someone who understands what it means to need help. Someone who will never turn away a person in crisis. Maya stared at her. You are offering me a job in your criminal organization? I am offering you a job in my humanitarian organization. The criminal parts are being, Valentina smiled slightly, phased out. Slowly. It is not easy to walk away from the life I have built. But I am trying. Why? Because I spent 40 years believing that power was the only protection against a cruel world. And then I met a woman who had no power at all, who lived in a crumbling building with nothing but her love for her daughter. And she showed me more courage in one night than I had seen in decades. Maya felt tears building in her eyes. I did not do anything brave. I was terrified the entire time. That is what bravery is. Being terrified and doing the right thing anyway. Valentina reached out and took her hand. You opened your door to 20 armed strangers because you saw people who needed help. You did not ask who we were or what we had done. You just helped. I did not really have a choice. There is always a choice, Maya. You taught me that. They stood in silence for a long moment. Two women from different worlds who had found each other in a storm. Mama. Destiny appeared in the doorway, her eyes widening when she saw their visitor. It is the Queen. Valentina laughed. That same surprised, delighted laugh Maya remembered from the night they met. Hello, Destiny. I came to see how you were doing. And to give you something. She pulled a small box from her pocket and handed it to the little girl. Inside was a necklace, a simple silver chain with a small crown pendant. This belonged to my daughter. Valentina's voice was soft. She died when she was about your age. A long time ago. Destiny looked at the necklace with wide eyes. What happened to her? She got sick, and the doctors could not save her. Valentina knelt down to Destiny's level. I have kept this necklace for 20 years, waiting to find someone brave enough to wear it. And I think that someone is you. Destiny threw her arms around Valentina's neck, and Maya watched as the most feared woman in the criminal underworld hugged her daughter, crying softly, holding on like she never wanted to let go. Subscribe right now if this moment is hitting you. Like this video, comment, and tell me what this story meant to you. 6 months later, the grand opening of the Chin Johnson Community Center was covered by every news outlet in the city. Named in honor of Mrs. Chun and Maya Johnson, the unlikely heroes of a night that had become local legend, the center provided emergency shelter, job training, and support services for struggling families. Maya stood at the podium, looking out at the crowd. Destiny sat in the front row, wearing her silver crown necklace. Victor stood near the back, trying to look inconspicuous and failing entirely. And Valentina was not there. She had stayed away deliberately, not wanting her presence to overshadow the center's mission. But her money had built every wall. Her influence had cut through every bureaucratic obstacle. And her vision had made it all possible. I was asked to share how this center came to be, Maya said into the microphone. And the truth is, it started with a knock on my door. She told the story, not all of it, not the parts that would endanger anyone, but enough. Enough to explain that sometimes shelter means more than a roof. That sometimes mercy is the most powerful force in the world. That sometimes the people who seem most dangerous are the ones who need kindness most. When she finished, the crowd applauded. People wiped tears from their eyes. And Maya looked toward the back of the room, where a figure in dark clothes stood in the shadows. Valentina raised a hand in silent salute. Maya nodded back. The storm had passed, and everything had changed. That night, after the crowds had gone and Destiny was asleep, Maya sat alone in her new apartment, a real apartment this time, with working locks and windows that closed properly and heat that actually worked. Her phone buzzed. A text from Valentina. You did it. I am proud of you. Maya typed back. We did it. Together. A pause. Then, I am retiring. Officially. The last of my operations transfer to legitimate management next month. Victor is staying to help with security at the center. What will you do? Another pause, longer this time. Travel. Rest. Try to remember who I was before I became the queen. Will I see you again? The response came immediately, always. You gave me shelter when I needed it most. I will never forget that. And I will never stop protecting you. You and Destiny both. For as long as I live. Maya smiled through her tears. She thought about that night 6 months ago. The knock that had changed everything. The choice she had made without really understanding what it would mean. She thought about fear and mercy and what it meant to open a door to strangers. And she realized something. Sometimes shelter does not just protect you from the storm. Sometimes it protects you from becoming someone you never wanted to be. And sometimes, if you are very, very lucky, it brings you exactly the people you need to change your fate. The storm had passed, but the connections it created would last forever. That is the end of this story, and if you made it all the way here, I need you to do 3 things for me right now. First, hit that like button as hard as you possibly can. This story came from the deepest part of my heart. Every word, every scene, every moment was crafted to move you. Your like tells me that it worked. Second, drop a comment and tell me what this story meant to you. Tell me about the storms in your own life. Tell me about the people who gave you shelter when you needed it most. Tell me about the doors you have opened for strangers. I read every single comment, and I want to hear your story. Third, and this is the most important one, subscribe right now and turn on notifications. If you have made it this far and you are not subscribed, you are missing out on dozens more stories like this one. Stories about mercy and power and the choices that define us. Stories that will stay with you long after you finish watching. Subscribe now. Do not wait. Thank you for being here. Thank you for staying until the very end. Thank you for believing that shelter is more than just protection from the rain. That sometimes it is the thing that changes who we become. I will see you in the next one. Subscribe now.